Hi, I'm Wade from Thoroughbred Diesel. Today we're going to be installing a Powermaster Alternator on our 2005 6.0 Powerstroke. First off, we're going to start off this video to tell you that this is our very last video in the last 10 years of the Thoroughbred Diesel videos that will not be edited by Jim Wilcox. Jim Wilcox is no longer going to be employed at Thoroughbred Diesel. He's off to do his own thing. We're very proud of him. He's somewhat of a slumlord mogul, owns half of Kentucky, whatever, but he's on to bigger and better things. So Jim, we thank you for everything that you've done for our videos here at Thoroughbred Diesel, all the editing and all of that stuff that I don't even know what it is. That's what Jim does, and he has been an instrumental part. I think I said that right. He has been an integral, he's been a big daggone part of what we've done in our YouTube videos. So Jim, we thank you for that. Now, Powermaster alternators. Today we're putting one on a 2005 6.0 Powerstroke, and we talk about HEUI injection systems in the 7.3 and the 6.0s and why it is so important to have a good running charging system. So this Powermaster alternator fits for the 2003, 2007 6.0 Powerstrokes. This is a 200 amp alternator. So a higher amperage alternator is going to be, number one, it's going to have your HEUI injection systems, those systems that have IDMs, FICMs that require more voltage to operate the fuel injection system. This is going to supply the correct voltage for that. It's also going to give you voltage when you are running aftermarket accessories like fuel pumps, aftermarket radios, things of that nature. So all in all, just a really good alternator for you to consider to put on your light duty diesel truck. Now, the Powermaster alternators, these are 1-year warranty alternators, all made in America. Really good stuff. We're going to link you inside of this video to our unboxing video where we go over some more technical aspects of the Powermaster alternators. But just want to talk just a little bit about what you need for the installation, just normal hand tools and everything here. However, with this being a lower or a higher amperage alternator, this is going to require an extra case ground on this alternator. So you can see on the back of this alternator, and they've got it tagged here, and I've taken the tag off of it. They will have this lug tagged. This is going to be for your secondary ground. That's going to be grounding the case of the alternator back to chassis of the vehicle or the engine, however you want to. So what we used in this, when you do this ground, you want the ground wire to be the same size as the power wire that's coming from the alternator, the supply wire coming from the alternator. So we got 6-gauge wire and made a ground strap for this. This has got a 3/8 lug on it and a 5/16 lug on it because we're actually going to be grounding back to the block on this. So that's about, I don't know, 10-inch length of the wire. So this does not come included in the box. You will have to get this for yourself. But with this higher amperage alternator, you are going to have a secondary ground, because on these higher amperage alternators, the last thing you want is this thing looking for a ground. So that's why we have the secondary ground. And there you go. All right. So we've told you everything about the alternator. We've told you why you need a Powermaster alternator, higher amperage alternator for your truck. So now we're going to show you how to put one on your Powerstroke, your 6.0 Powerstroke. All right, alternator change out on 6.0 Ford. Really the first and most important thing that you got to do is isolate your battery cables, take your positive cable or negative cable off the battery, because definitely spark risk when you're working with the power cable from the alternator there. So just make sure that you get your battery cables off of your batteries. Chris here walking behind me, you never know what's going to happen with that guy. So first thing we do, battery cables off. Second thing is your hot side intercooler pot. Doesn't necessarily have to be done if you want to work with it in your way, but I like to take it off because it just, for us, for filming, it's going to make it a whole lot easier and make the shots better, but it's just going to do a lot better just to give you room to, especially to access that lug. All right, we have a truck with a cab up on it here in the shop. I want to show you how the tensioner works before we go over on the truck, because there's really not a whole lot you're going to be able to see. So 6.0 tensioners, you notice this little piece of tin right here. This is a keeper. So once you take the tension off of the belt, it will lock into a position, and I'm going to let Adam scoot back just a little bit there. So your 1/2-inch drive breaker bar here, push down on it, pull your keeper over, and then that holds your tension off the belt. Then you can take your belt off. When you go to release it, all you do is just push it towards the driver's side and it'll release back. So really nice little mechanism on a 6.0. It's one of the things that was done the right way. All right, so let's head back over to the truck and we'll show you the awful process of removing it in the truck. All right, so we're going to go ahead and engage the tensioner. So just a 1/2 inch drive breaker bar here, and then we lock our tang there, and you can see that will hold the tension on the belt, or take the tension off the belt, and then you can just lay it off, and then you're ready to remove your alternator. All right, we're ready to remove our wiring from our alternator before we remove it. So you want to remove your supply wire that supplies the voltage to the batteries here, and it's just a 10 metric nut, and we'll remove it. Then you have your wiring harness. Then you have your wiring harness feed. This is a 2-wire feed on the 6.0 alternators. One of the wires is feed to the alternator, and then, or I'm sorry, feed to the ECM. Then the other wire is just the feed that actually goes back into the cab, turns the battery light on when the voltage is too low. So the way this is recessed on these alternators, it's down in here to where you just don't have a good grip on the connector. So what I do is I push on the back of it, and I've got this tool you all see me use all the time, this little O-ring pick, and I just get on the side of it and prop it up, and then that keeps you from pulling on the stock wires and then disconnecting them from the harness. So just another thing you just don't want to have to fight, you know. So all right, so there's our wiring harness off. All right, 3 bolts that hold the alternator down to the carrier here. 3 13 metric headed bolts. Let's go ahead and remove them, and we're ready to lift our alternator out. All 3 bolts the same lengths. Lift it up. All right, on the back of your Powermaster alternator, we talked about there's an extra ground here grounding the case of the alternator. So what we did was we made up a little 6-gauge wire here, the length of it. When you make your wire, if you make it or have somebody else make it, I turn my lugs opposite directions, flat portion facing opposite directions, and you'll see I'm going to go to this lug that's on the rocker box right here. That is a 10 metric 1.5 pitch. So that's what I'm going to use. Now I'm going to leave this loose on the alternator, and I want it to route kind of down this side and out. I'm going to leave this loose so I can move this, manipulate where I want to, but I want to get the wire on before I set the alternator in, and that'll just kind of help me to guide everything where I want it to be. All right, so we're going to feed our extra ground wire down through here. I told you we were going to go to this lug on the rocker box. I thought better of that. I'm going to go down to this lug that's on the head right here. They're both 10 metric, 1.5. I've got a short bolt in here, so we're going to go ahead and feed this ground wire through this pocket of the carrier on the intake manifold, and then just sit it right down. Then you're just going to go behind here, check your clearance on your ground wire, make sure everything is pinched or anything of that nature. Then we will just run our ground wire back up. I cut this one just a little bit too long. My arms are in your way. You can't see a thing. I will correct that condition as well. There we go, right there. Uh-oh, well, look, Adam's running ratchet. He did it again, people. He did it again. Tell him to stop doing that. So there you are. So we're gonna tighten this ground wire right here up. This is in nothing's way. It's running right along the bottom of that carrier, so it won't rub through. We're in good shape right there. So we'll just tighten the ground wire up, and we will go ahead and throw our 3 mounting bolts in here as well, so it'll hold position of the alternator while we're working on the ground wire. Then you'll just snug those down. Alrighty, so you can see we've got our ground wire tightened up there. We've got our mounting bolts snugged down. We're gonna go ahead and remove the nut where our service wire goes, and we will replace that. So this is all OE mounting locations, so you're not gonna have anything that's gonna jump up here and bite you in the butt, not be you know, correct to what we're doing here. So that will go just like so. We'll snug that down, not over tightening it. Then we're going to reinstall our factory wire right here onto the back of the alternator. These are all OE connectors on the Powermaster Alternator, so everything will fit exactly as it came off. All right, the output lug on the Powermaster Alternator has got your output wire or your service wire to the batteries going, what I'm just going to call it as north-south. So it's, if you look at it like there, it's running this way. This is going to interfere with the intercooler. So what you can do there is take the old lug off of your stock one. Okay, that has your orientation to where it's east-west, for lack of a better word, and you can just roll it over and put it on this new Powermaster Alternator and get that orientation going the other way. It doesn't have to be done. It's what I like. I prefer it going the wire orientation to go that way. So that's what we're going to do here. 10 metric just to remove that. Just a nut that holds the lug in the back of it. Okay. No washers or anything in there. We're just going to take our OE lug and we're going to put it on there, and it'll go in, and it's got two little locking tabs on it. That'll lock right in. And that way we can get our service wire back in that east-west orientation like we like. We'll just snug that to the back of the alternator. Okay. All right. Then it's easier just to go ahead and do your report wire that I call it here. This is an OE connector, so you just push it on till it clips, and then we can put our service wire on just like it came off right there, and your 10 metric on top of there, and then we will snug it down as well. Once you turn the ratchets the right way, it's very important. So when you're trying to tighten something, you need to have the right ratchet going the right direction. Put your cover back on it, and voila, she's ready for our intercooler pipe. All right, your serpentine belt, we're not gonna do our intercooler pipe next, we're gonna do our serpentine belt next. Then you just wanna sit it back on. You wanna make sure all your ribs are on there. The rib count on the Powermaster Alternator is gonna be correct. Anything you've got a rib on, you wanna make sure that you've got it. Now to release the tensioner, you just have to put tension back on it. You'll hear the little 10-piece fall, and you're good to go. Serpentine belt's back on. You can pull it as well, and that'll pop it, but you got your, I leave my breaker bar in there, so it's just easier for me like that. So now we're going to reinstall our intercooler pipe. All right, time to reinstall your intercooler pipe. 6.0 intercoolers, because of positive crankcase ventilation, HEUI fuel injection system, lots of things to talk about here inside this. You are going to have a considerable amount of oil residue inside of your intercooler boots and inside of your intercooler pipe. This is a really good time to clean that out. There is nothing worse than doing a job like this, getting your intercooler boot on, and oil slip, pops off on the side of the road, and there you are, and you think you're installed of your alternator that the whole truck's come apart. So, all that being said, take the time, clean your intercooler pipes out, clean out your boots, good and brake clean, and get them ready. So we'll go ahead and reinstall our hot side intercooler wire, or intercooler pipe here. And don't forget to get the pipe up at the engine as well. That one's just as apt to blow out as any of the other ones. I usually take the boot off at the intercooler here. I just find that easier than leaving the intercooler boot on. Trying to do it like that. All right, and then get it on at the engine. Then we'll get it on got our engine connection there, so you can see that gives you good clearance from the back of the alternator. Shouldn't be touching the alternator, touching any wires, not your new ground wire or anything like that. You're good to go. So we'll get our 11 metric now and tighten down our intercooler clamps. Alrighty, last but not least, we're going to be putting our battery cables back on, getting ready to fire up and try her out. All right, first start up after the Powermaster Alternator, obviously you want the truck to start, but you want there to be no battery light, no nothing. Check your voltages here. You'll start out after initial startup, be 11, 12. Once the alternator regulator kicks in, you're going to get in there to the high 13s, 13.6, 13.7, you know, wound up settling in right in there. So yeah, 13.7. So there we go, successful install. The extra ground wire for the higher amperage alternator is probably the one thing that you'll want to take from this video. Everybody knows how to install an alternator, but there's always a few safety points that you want to put in there. If it is your first time, you know, the biggest thing is make sure that you get the battery cables off of the battery, because you've got a live wire on the back of that alternator. It's right there beside of the intercooler pipe, and there is no telling how many of us, myself included, that have gotten in a rush, going to take an intercooler pipe off or something, to think, hey, I'll scoot this right past that wire, and all of a sudden you got a hole in your intercooler pipe and it's going to cost you $300 or $400. And yeah, that's it. So big shout out and a thank you to Powermaster Alternator for supplying us with the alternator for this installation. This is one of our inside sales ladies. That is, this is her 6.0 truck. So big shout out to them. Shout out to Jim for everything he's done for our channel. And again, a big sayonara to him. And he is going to be leaving us. So we'll have a new editing man, and we're excited for the future on that. But yeah, if you have a question about Powermaster alternators, just give us a call, like and subscribe to our channel. And we thank you for watching.